Recently, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, better known as MAPS, announced a major milestone, having reached the fundraising goal of its capstone campaign, $30 million in 90 days, to make MDMA-assisted psychotherapy legal. The money goes towards completing the third and last stage of FDA trials studying the use of MDMA-assisted psychotherapy to treat post-traumatic stress syndrome. If approved, this would be the first time a psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy has passed through the FDA trials, setting a precedent for other psychedelic medicines pursuing a similar path. Today, we'll be meeting with David Bronner, the CEO, or Cosmic Engagement Officer of the soap company, Dr. Bronners. He also sits on the MAPS board, and he's with us today to discuss the vision MAPS has, how it plans to execute it, and what MAPS sees in the future of its emerging landscape. David, congratulations on reaching that 30 million milestone.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me. Yeah.
Hey. Could you please explain what's involved in getting MDMA psychotherapy legalized? What's the third stage of the FDA trials represent? And if successful, how soon can we expect to see MDMA psychotherapy available to the general public?
So FDA has granted MDMA assisted therapy breakthrough status, which means that FDA believes it may well offer much better treatment than available options, and it's pretty rarely granted. Phase 3 is basically where you prove out the efficacy that's been demonstrated in phase 2. It's a much larger sample of people. It's virtually assured, and it's what we already know. We know the effect, the PTSD scores, what's called the clinician administered PTSD score caps. Those scores drop way down with MAPS assisted therapy versus any other treatment option by quite a lot. And so in phase 3, the interim analysis is confirming what we saw in phase 2. So basically by the end of 2022, early 23, we'll see MDMA assisted therapy available for treatment-resistant PTSD.
So we'd love to learn why you are personally so committed to this cause.
In brief, I've experienced the healing power of these medicines in my own life. They helped set me on my path, realize my deeper, truer, authentic self, connected to the universe, to God, to spirit, to love.
Dr. Bronner's labels are famous for their Bible quotes and for the phrase, all one, in large, unmissable letters. Do you feel that your commitment to MAPS and psychedelic therapy is an extension of that vision from your grandfather who founded the company? I also heard you guys are changing the label to educate your consumers about psychedelics. Would love to hear more about that too.
Yeah, I think that the psychedelic mission is in a way most on point of my granddad's vision of uniting spaceship Earth across religious and ethnic divides, and that all faith traditions at their best are saying the same thing, and we're all children of the same transcendent source. And we need to realize that, or we're going to perish in a nuclear armed world. And I think psychedelic medicines have the capability of really opening our hearts and minds, and making us less judgmental and disrespectful and demonizing of other people. So yeah, I think it's really on point with my granddad's mission. And then here's the new Heal Soul labels. They are in stores now, and they're starting to show up, but will really be on store shelves in a big way by end of this month through the election. And we've changed our labels temporarily to really advocate for psychedelic assisted therapy, really break it down in a way my mom's church group can understand. That's the goal here, to just to really frame the healing power of these medicines and these therapies in terms of epidemics of mental health issues that people understand. Modern medical pharma approaches are really inadequate for, and we just really need a much deeper way of healing, a more indigenous kind of way. The indigenous cultures that have been working with these plant medicines for millennia. This is what we need to address these, the huge malaise at the kind of the heart of the Western condition. Reconnect ourselves to nature, to each other, to spirit, in a really profound way.
Did Dr. Bronners make a donation to the Capstone campaign, and can you tell us how much?
Yeah. So what we've done is we extended we had a 5-year, $1 million a year, so $5 million existing commitment to kind of launch the initial fundraise for the phase 3 effort. And then we added another 5 years to that. So for Capstone, I think they counted like 800,000 of that towards the Capstone, and then the remainder will be for general MAP support. we don't really care how it gets counted. Yeah, we've made a $1 million a year for 10 years to MAPS, of which they're counting 800,000 for the capstone effort.
How does MAPS plan on spending that 30 million?
Oh yeah, it's the phase 3 itself is a big chunk of it. Like everything, it costs way more than anybody actually planned for. So it's there's just a lot more staffing. We're kind of burning out staff. We need to hire up a fair amount of staff here. And commercialization, nobody was really thinking about the actual, everyone was so focused on approval, and no one was really thinking about commercialization, scaling up the therapy and the training of the therapists and all that kind of stuff. It's basically approval and commercialization related, getting the final approval, and then how do we roll this out, at scale, and reach as many people as fast as possible.
MAPS is a nonprofit raising money through donations, while at the same time, many for-profit companies are raising vast sums from investors to introduce psychedelic medicines to the market. Compass Pathways just announced that they intend to go public and raise 100 million on the New York Stock Exchange. What is it about the nonprofit approach to psychedelic medicines that you think is important and worthy of the donations and support?
Yeah, I think, I'm not 100% opposed to for-profits. I mean, Dr. Bronners is a for-profit. We're organized as a benefit corporation, which basically we're set up to give all the profits we make that we don't need for the company to the causes and charities we support. And we cap executive salaries and compensation at 5 times our lowest paid position. So, there's nothing inherently wrong about a for-profits, but the issue is where your money comes from to finance that. And all too often that money comes from investors who expect returns, and the one and only fiduciary responsibility of any corporation is to maximize shareholder return. I think the importance of the nonprofits is that they do have mission first. They're not beholden to shareholders. So MAPS is 100% about the mission. USONA on the south side inside is 100% about the mission. The larger mission here of integrating psychedelics responsibly, not solely and only through the FDA approval route. So, MAPS just really hold, and I think it's really important for MAPS to hold a really high bar and be a check in the for-profit ecosystem.
So building off of that, do you believe that MAPS mode of operation might influence the ethical decisions of for-profit companies in the psychedelic space? And if so, in which ways?
I think just setting an ethical bar, definitely no one is going to be able to make that much money off MDMA because, MAPS is not going to be price gouging. And same thing with psilocybin. I mean, USONA will bring it to market, and, whatever the for-profits are in the psilocybin space, it's not going to be that big a moneymaker. You won't be able to price gouge the medicine. And that's, true for hopefully Ibogaine and others, that we just have nonprofits bring medicines through to keep a kind of price check on the for-profits. But, for-profits, they can obviously raise capital, extremely quickly. So, potentially scale the medicines and deliveries and therapies much quicker than the nonprofit models. So, hopefully it's all going to work out in a good way.
So once MDMA psychotherapy has made it out to the public, what's next for MAPS?
Yeah, that's a current debate. I mean, right now everyone's very focused on MDMA approval, but probably, the most logical is to immediately build out studies with other conditions for MDMA. And so that insurance will cover, for anorexia and like autism or anxiety or anxiety-related autism. And you can off-label the medicine, but insurance generally won't cover off-label. So you have to conduct the studies to get that insurance coverage. And then just kind of taking a hard look at some other medicines. Ibogaine's a candidate to bring through FDA approval process. Rick and Amy, they really want to bring marijuana in its natural herbal form through FDA approval process in some fashion so that everyone's weed can be covered by insurance. Yeah, so, something like that. One or the other, we'll figure it out.
Very cool. All right, and you've launched the Heal Soul campaign with Bronners. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So so in addition to our labels, communicating all about the benefits of psychedelic therapy, we've got all our social media channels are going to be featuring videos of our partner organizations in the effort. So the partner orgs are MAPS, as well as the psilocybin therapy measure, measure 109 in Oregon, the Decrim Nature campaign in DC, VETS, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. It's a former SEAL Team 6 working primarily with Ibogaine and 5-MeO. Just doing amazing work. Heroic Hearts Project, former Army Ranger Jesse Gould, leading that up and sending former veterans to healing ayahuasca circles. And then the Indigenous Peyote Conservation Initiative, really highlighting that as the Renaissance unfolds and demand starts spiking for especially plant medicines, that everyone's really understanding that some medicines are really in a state of collapse in the wild, and non-Indigenous need to, really steer clear. We need to be cultivating medicine, figuring out how to, one, harvest it in the wild in a sustainable way, and then to sustainably and appropriately cultivate, and to the benefit of the indigenous wisdom traditions that have been holding these medicines in the highest prayerful vibration. Ideally doing, setting up projects where they can supply the medicine to people in a way that is in the right vibration and to the benefit of their communities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks for having me.